everybody, and welcome to Forever Cricket on Forever Sports. And the Proteas have just outclassed India, chasing down a score of 240 to win the second test and square up the series at the Wanderers. The first time the Proteas have ever beaten India at the Wanderers in what I think has been 5 attempts so far. And with that, leveling the series, which means the series is alive as we go down to Newlands for the third and final test, which will commence on the 11th of January, which is next week, Tuesday. And really was an overall brilliant performance from the Proteas, led by none other than Captain Dean Elgar with a fighting 96 not out, carrying his bat all through to the end. But a second innings effort from South Africa that we've been waiting to see for a very, very long time. And I think in a team where there's no doubt about a lot of the talent within the group, but potentially mentality or whatever the reason, just not quite managing to get the performances on the board. But I think if you look at the match overall, and pretty much everybody in the entire team contributed at some point in the game, which is very important. And I think that with that, the entire team will take a lot of confidence going into Newlands. And momentum is a strange thing, even if you just draw this test and you go into Newlands to try and fight to win, to try and level the series, now, there's every possible result available in Newlands. You lose the test, you've lost the series. You win the test, you win the series. You draw the test, you level the series. And so I personally think that even just drawing the test in Cape Town will be a massive victory for the Proteas. But it all started on day one with a very, very good bowling performance. And when you think about it, this entire test has been wrapped up on day 4, which included pretty much largely lost the bulk of today because of rain. So it was a test with very good bowling conditions in terms of a pitch that played pretty difficult, to be honest. And statistically, I was looking on Twitter, the statistical analysis about it being one of the most difficult pitches to have played on in the sort of the last decade, in terms of the amount of deviation and stuff like that. So Wanderers has become quite a tricky place to bat when it comes to test match cricket. But if we look at the first innings, India being bowled out for 202, and the big thing was to make sure we got through the openers. So KL Rahul continues good form with the 50, but to get Agarwal out for 26 and then to get through Pujara and Mirani quite quickly in 3 and 0, that was sort of the big thing. Once you're through the top order, it becomes very difficult for any team to start putting on big runs, which is kind of what the issue has been with South Africa. But in the first innings, I thought that Lungi and Gidi bowled superbly, didn't take any wickets, but bowled brilliantly. Marco Jansen came back with a fantastic return of 4 for 31 in the 17 overs. Khisar Rabada took 3 wickets, Dwayne Ulafet took 3 wickets. And then it was a reasonable effort from the Proteas batsmen, but one was quite disappointing after where we sort of looked. Aidan Markham going out quite cheaply for 17. Elgar with a very, very hard fought 28 off 120. Keegan Peterson finally getting off the mark with a 62 off 118. We've been waiting for that. Rassie van der Dussen going out cheaply, sort of the pressure was building on him. And then Temba Bavuma, another very classy 50. But they just sort of continue that worry that Proteas players just can't sort of kick on. Far too many starts when you think that there were 3 scores of 21 in that first innings. To post 229 to get a bit of a lead, but you kind of felt it was 30 to 40 runs below what we would have liked to have done and put real pressure on India. What didn't help is that pretty ordinary bowling at times in the Indian second innings. The second innings though, Pujara and Rana sort of put the South African bowlers to the sword. But once we got those two out, Vihari contributed with 40, but after that it wasn't too many massive sort of inroads. And it all came down to Khisar Rabada, who produced a brilliant spell to claim his 3 wickets, and he sort of tore through that top order, getting Pujara, getting Rane, and getting Rishabh Pant. So those were very important wickets. And then with 240 on the board, it was always going to be, would have been the 3rd highest total chased at Wanderers ever. So it was a massive, massive ask. And with a Proteas side, which had only gone over 200 once in the series in three attempts, it looked like a very daunting task. However, for the first time in quite a while, partnerships. Aidan Markham once again played a very Aidan Markham innings where he looked brilliant for his 31 of 38. But more importantly, by the time he went out, 47 for 1, it's pretty much a 50-run partnership, and that means everything. So by the time Keegan Peterson's coming on, there are less than 200 runs to get. He's, the ball's been worn out a little bit. It's 10 overs old as opposed to being 2 to 3 overs old. Now, obviously, ideally, you want your openers to try and put on a 100-run stand on, in sort of a perfect situation. But the next partnership was also about sort of 45 odd. Keegan Peterson looked very organised, 28 or 44. He always does look very organised. Was outdone by Ashton, but then it came to quite quite an interesting knock by Rassi van der Dussen. Meanwhile, sort of Dean Alger was just batting on the other end, doing exactly what Dean Alger does. You know, he wore so many blows, he fought really hard. I thought Rassi van der Dussen had quite an interesting innings where he had a very cautious and very guarded start to the innings, and then today came on and actually started playing some shots. And he ended with 40 of 92, and I think the way he played today is exactly how you want to see him playing, you know, being willing to take on the bowlers, being willing to play his strokes. And he needed to produce a score. Now, it's not a massive score, 40, but it was a very important score because, first of all, I think it took a little bit of pressure out of Alger in terms of scoring in the runs, but it also chipped off quite a lot of the large portion of the target quite quickly. So by the time Temba Bavuma joined Dean Alger, you know, the bulk of the work was done. We were 175 for 3. And then Temba Bavuma, 23 of 45. He's in such a good vein of form at the moment. But all the plaudits have to go to Dean Alger. 96, 188 balls, 309 minutes, 10 fours, so 40 runs. But I think, you know, out of those 10 fours, I think only about, you probably find the last 30 of them. I think by the time he got to this 50, he only hit 3 fours. So it was really, really hard fall from Dean Alger. And now we go to Cape Town with a chance. And that's the big thing. There is a chance. It's obviously a lot to do. It's going to be very difficult to go and repeat this performance and try and beat India again. But there's a chance, and there's momentum, and there's confidence. And all of a sudden, you look at this Proteas side, and there are players who can contribute. And the funny thing is, you know, you always talk about one player has to go big, and we did see that with Dean Alger going to 96. But if one player is not going to go massive, and Dean Alger did go big, so, you know, it's a pretty poor example, you've got to make sure that everybody then contributes, because, you know, a 31 from Markham, a 28 from Peterson, a 40 from Van der Dussen, a Bavuma 23. You know, Dean has gone big around them, and it shows you how important that is. But all of a sudden, you turn in 43 for 3. You know, even if Dean Alger is sort of making sort of 60, you know, you'd be sitting there for 4, and you'd be sitting around the 200 mark. So, you know, ideally, you want everybody making scores, but the value of one person going big is what wins your test match. You know, you have somebody who goes on to score a century in a test match, and you put yourself in the driving seat, and that's the main thing. Dean Alger went big, everybody else batched around him, and they could. And that's what we need, somebody in that lineup to really sort of take charge and own their role. In terms of selections, I don't think you'll change much. I don't see why you would change much after this performance. You know, Marco Jansen took wickets. Joanna Olivia took wickets. Lungengidi was looking very good, took wickets in the second innings. Keshav Maharaj only bowled 2 overs, so he was probably the wrong selection for this test. However, Cape Town's a whole different track, and I would keep him in the side. Apart from that, I think, you know, you've got to keep backing Aidan Markham. You keep Keegan Peterson after his brilliant 50. And I think Rassi van der Dussen, you know, once again, under a bit of pressure, played a very important knock. But let me know what you thought of the performance down in the comments below. Please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. My name's Steven. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll chat to you soon.